everyone, and welcome to our garden. This weekend we're not really going to be doing any gardening. I kind of fell and hurt my ribs, but there are a few things that I wanted to show you. I've got a few plants that are still flowering in December, so this is some of my winter interests that I've been working on for a while and trying to get some kind of flowers and color all year round. So I'm going to show you just a few plants, and hopefully over the years I can build on those. If you don't know, I grow in a USDA equivalent to a zone 9A, and I'm actually in the UK, in England, in the south west coast, so it is a coastal climate. It does mean that our winters are kind of mild. I mean, this is December. It's a little chilly, but other than that, it's not a problem. And I garden with my cat Keith, and he's in the back of the garden down there, and he's wearing his bow tie collar, so I'll try to get a picture of that. So I'm going to make this video really quick, and thanks for watching. So the first plant that I want to show is a Daphne. Oh, sorry, I'm moving slow because of my ribs. The first one that I want to show you is a Daphne. Now, this is actually blooming in December. This one is called Perfume Princess. This is supposed to be one of the more fragrant Daphnes, and it is supposed to be one of the earliest and longest blooming. Now, this is technically supposed to be blooming kind of January, February, March, but it's been blooming for about 2 weeks now, so since the beginning of December. I am a good 4 feet away from this plant, and the smell is absolutely intoxicating. It is relatively evergreen. It does have these kind of really nice ovate, kind of shiny, glossy greens. It gets about a meter to meter and a half. Where I have it, I've kind of placed it somewhere that you can walk past, because it would be such a shame to not be able to clock this fragrance. You can see they have these really lovely clusters with this kind of pink blush color towards the bottom, fading and opening to the white, with some yellow in the center. It's a really, really lovely fragrance. Daphnes are one of those plants that you see in the garden center all the time, and they are also a bit expensive. You know, they're usually 20 to 30 quid. I think this one was about 20 pounds. I planted it at the beginning of this year, so it's been in the ground for a year. So I really can't account for why it's blooming right now, other than, you know, it's liking this climate. So it'll be interesting to see how long this is blooming. I think one of the important things when you are trying to choose the plant that you want to add to your garden for fragrance is, yes, you can read the description online, but really what you want to make sure that you do is wait and see what they actually look like, either in flower in the garden center, and also you can smell. So I knew I wanted some Daphnes in the garden, but I just wasn't sure which was the one that I wanted, and I wanted one that I enjoyed the fragrance of. Some of them I'm not so keen, but this one I waited till it was blooming, had a good smell, and I thought it was the perfect one for me. So this is what the tag looks like. I'm not sure where I bought this one. There's quite a few garden centers that I go to. So it does take sun and part sun. It's really important to note that we are in December, so the sun rises from this direction, and then it sets obviously this way, and the sun in the middle of the summer is directly above, so this does get full sun. But during the winter period, this is I'd call this a part shade to shade situation, because it really does only get the kind of morning sun. So I'm just going to kind of zoom in so that you can see what this looks like. Absolutely covered. There is something that's been having a bit of a nibble on this, but that's okay. And also, I thought, as a surprise for me when I was looking at these, I thought one of the things that made these so expensive was because, I mean, they're not that expensive, but they are pricey. I thought maybe they were really slow growers, but it is important to note that this one, this Perfume Princess, this entire triple section here where it branches off, that whole section is new this year. Now this one gets a meter by a meter. So this one gets meter to meter, so it'll get just about up to here. And I'm probably going to keep this a little smaller, and it is kind of at the base of this emerald lace Japanese acer, which is a weeping tree. So I really thought it was a kind of perfect location, because at some point there will be a small stream running through here, and I wanted it to be a fragrance that I could smell when I was walking past. Moving on to the next thing that's flowering that I was surprised to see. Well, I guess I could add a dandelion to it. I've left this dandelion, and look, it's about to flower. So I guess you can add dandelions to my list. But one of the things that I wanted to add is a primrose. This is a kind of typical English primrose. I don't have the actual name. I'll put it on the screen. Primroses at night can emit a fragrance, and some of them aren't very fragrant, some of them are, and I really love this yellow color. I think it's really cheery. One of the things that I've battled all year round, you can see it's this quite small rosette here, so it's been in ground for about a year now, and there's a few that I've kind of tucked through the garden space. So I think there's a cluster of 3 here and maybe 4 there. But one of the things that I've struggled with these all year round, as much as I love these, is the slug damage. It's like, if you can imagine, this whole thing should be absolutely covered in blooms, but this little guy here, this little jerk is eating all of the blooms, and it's been really difficult for me to keep up with them. So primrose is definitely something that I think of as a spring flower, but you can see there's quite a few flowers on this one, and I think I've got another bunch of these here. Here you go. So look, there's another slug. Look, there's the evidence. Look. How rude. So you can see there's a tiny little flower here, but I wanted these because again, I waited. Oh, look, here's one about to bud and flower, not been nibbled on yet. Oh, and here's another. Oh, that one's been nibbled on quite a lot. So I wanted to tuck these around because I really like this color. I really like the kind of cabbagey leaf structure, and it's just nice to have a bit of spring color. Oh, look, we've got some spring bulbs coming up. Oh, there's even some more. Oh, how fun. Are there any more? Oh, there's some spring bulbs here. God knows what I planted. Ow, I can't laugh. Oh, my ribs. Okay, so you can see that primrose is an absolute great one to have, but here in the UK we get quite a lot of rain and we get quite a few slugs, so I'm gonna have to find these guys another home. To another plant, this one I've already talked about quite a few times. This one is, the common name for it is called wallflower, but this one is an erysimum, and this one is called irresistible with a Y, magenta. And what I really like about this is it is evergreen in our zone, in our climate. It handles full sun, it handles shade, it throws these really lovely mass blooms of this kind of terracotta-y orange, purple, and gold. And I've recently cut it back and it's really starting to bloom. But what I really love about this is that it's very fragrant, it's highly fragrant. And I know if you've seen a couple of my other videos, I'm talking about this one a lot, but it's just because it's such a good plant. It's really easy to propagate, you can cut it down, and the smell, oh, it's just absolutely wonderful. The fragrance is something between the fragrance of a choicea and Gelsemium sempervirens, which some of you might know is Carolina jessamine. So I was really delighted when I found a plant that had that same fragrance, and these colors are just wonderful. I also like that they're evergreen. They'll get a little bit bigger than this if you let them, but you can keep them small. If you go to the base gets a little woody over time, but again, keep it pruned and you'll keep getting flushes of flowers. What I also really like about this wallflower or erysimum is that it's in flower and it's green all year round. So we're in December and it's flowering. It was flowering in the summer. It was flowering in the spring. It was flowering in the autumn. And to me, there's very few plants that I've seen that can do that. And it's kept its fragrance the entire time. So if you haven't tried wallflower, I would encourage you to give it a go. I've got 2 varieties. The other variety that I have is a yellow unvariegated foliage. And maybe I'll show you what this looks like. However, it is not as flowering, it doesn't flower as much as this one does. So this is something that if you want something that you can kind of guarantee that it's going to be flowering all year round, I know this variety does. So highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Okay. So roses are also one of those things that actually flowers quite a long period in the year. And one of the ones that I have flowering is this David Austin rose. This one is called Poet's Wife. This is a medium shrub. It gets around 110 centimeters by 110. It's a typical rose. This is probably one of the most fragrant roses that we have. The one at the front of the house is a really nice fragrant rose. It's not blooming right now. It's just finished its blooms not too long ago. But this one flowers throughout the year, but it mostly flowers these like rich yellow flowers, and they repeat flower in June and September. But again, it's December and it's thrown the kind of odd bud. Now, some of my roses this year, I don't use any kind of chemicals or spray. What I have noticed is that I had quite a few caterpillars that helped defoliate my roses, and this shrub rose was no exception. But this one was a gift for my husband, and it is absolutely, you can see I've planted it here to just kind of fill in. It's a lovely rose, and it's still got buds on it, so I'm gonna attempt to get up and show you what that looks like. See the buds here, and you can see there are a few of them. Something is nibbling them, and there's an ant's nest at the bottom that I need to deal with. So this is a relatively healthy rose bush, but like I say, something has been working on it. Hi. Hi, Keith. Are you going to show everyone your bow tie? Let me see. Let me see. Oh, that's a dapper cat. Did you tell everyone that your bow tie's got oranges on it? Huh? Ooh. So, back to the rose bush. So you can see here, it's got this really lovely kind of vintage rosette flower. It gets a little bit bigger than this when it's in mass flower, but the fragrance is just, oh, it's clean and fresh and a little lemony, and it's just that color. Look how beautiful that color is. So it's really nice to see a few of those flowers. Lucky for me and my sore ribs, I've got 2 plants here that are flowering in December in my zone, which is the equivalent to USDA zone 9. This area gets more sun. I would classify this area as full sun, but you can see it's just past midday and we're already in shade. You can see it is benefiting from a lower sun. So you can see barely, if I zoom in, this little guy. This is Osmanthus purpurescens. You can kind of see the purple veining that this plant has, and I bought it mega sale. It was only £1. I really like Osmanthus. My goal maybe one day is to collect enough Osmanthus to do Osmanthus wine. I think that would be fun. But this one is Osmanthus purpurescens. Sometimes it's referred to as false holly. You can take part shade or full sun. The leaves are usually a little bit more of this kind of darker green. They're relatively soft, but they do have points on them, and this has a lovely fragrance to it. So I really can't wait for this Osmanthus purpurescens to kind of fill in this space. It's got purple shoots on its new growth. They don't really have any new growth to show, but it does have these small white flowers on it. So it is also a fabulous winter flowering option for you. And it is also an evergreen shrub. So one of the things that I've been trying to add to the garden is a bit more evergreen interest and kind of some year-round context. Oh, Keith is using the potty behind my ewes. We'll give him some privacy, eh? So one of the other things that is still flowering in December, this is relatively new planting for me. My husband, Mr. Maude, picked this one up, and it was a fabulous choice. And it is so nice going to the garden center with your partner, or you know, someone that has a different taste to you, because they will give you a second opinion and, you know, introduce different things that they like, and you can see it from their perspective, which I really enjoy going to the garden center with my husband. He has found some of my most favorite plants that I wouldn't have picked up the first time. And one of these is the strawberry tree. And this one is native to Europe and to Ireland. And this one is called Unedo, I think. So this one is called a strawberry tree. All of the fruits are gone. What's interesting about this tree is that the fruits and flowers at the same time, and we've almost dropped all of the fruits, flowers, and we're starting to see the emergence of next year's fruits here. You can see them here. This was all a cluster of flowers, so it has that kind of ericaceae flower petal to it. It's got these little kind of bell-shaped flowers, which are really cute. And it looks like all of the birds have eaten the fruit. So that is an absolute success this year. It had a small clustering of fruit. There's none on the ground. So it looks like the blackbird that I saw out here the other day absolutely made it its meal. So there are a few different versions of the strawberry tree. This one has a nice rough peely bark. This is actually a tree. It could get massive. I'm actually going to keep this in more of a shrub form and keep it a bit smaller. This one is doing well. And what's also interesting is the new shoots have this kind of red coloring to them. But the main difference between this variety and the other one that you see a lot in America is that the bark is more gray and not that kind of cinnamon color. Okay, one of my absolute favorite things that's flowering in the garden, and providing scent too. It's really important that the stuff that I'm putting in the garden is giving me more than one thing, you know, and they last more than one season. And the other thing that's working really well is these. Now, I've covered this on the previous video, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on it, but this one is known as a winter flowering honeysuckle, or sometimes they call it winter flowering jasmine. It's quite like a small tree. It takes full sun, part shade. It doesn't technically like to be in heavy clay soil, but I have it in heavy clay and it's doing just fine. It's a very vigorous grower. So there are some new canes on this here and on the other side. So each shrub has probably about 2 canes, and that was all new this year, and it's flowering. It will lose its leaves in the winter, springtime, so it is deciduous, but the fragrance is wonderful. I can stand all the way over there and I can smell this, and it's really, really powerful. It opens up to these little kind of kangaroo paws into these white clusters. Let me see if I can get in. There you go. With these little delicate yellow legs hanging down. Absolutely fabulous plant for some winter interest. Now, one of the things that is also still flowering in December for me is this vine I need to fix. We had Storm Dara come through, and it's actually blown this trellis down. But with my ribs in the state that they are in, I just hope that this can stay long enough for me to come out and restretch wire across this wall. But I do have some gold flame honeysuckle, and that is still flowering in December. It's had frost and snow on it. You can see there's a few tendrils here. Gold flame honeysuckle is this hot pink color, and it opens to a really lovely buttery yellow. Let me see if I can find, I don't think I can. Okay. And this one is a really good plant. Now, I have it mixed with this clematis, this Armandii, because I wanted this. I love the Armandii. This one's called Apple Blossom. Leaf texture, and it is evergreen, but I wanted to mix something through that I knew that would flower at a later period, and so I've mixed this honeysuckle through. The one thing I am disappointed, I talked about it earlier, and that is using the opportunity that something is flowering as the time that you purchase it so that you can understand its fragrance. I was hoping that this would have a much stronger honeysuckle fragrance. It does not. So, and I do like that scent, so it might be something that I wish to maybe add in a kind of back fence setting. And there is a few other things to mention that is flowering at this time. Having to squat down. Oh. One of this is heather. This is an absolutely fun plant to have during the winter time. I've actually planted a few different variety of heathers through here, and the idea for me is that there's this kind of nice heathery kind of pathway, so it's going to take a while for a few of these to kind of fill in. This one is an autumn flowering, so I do want to mix in some winter flowering too, and there is, I think, a variety, I want to say maybe it's Kramer's red. I'm not sure, but there's a very vivid red color that does flower. But you can see that this variety that I have here is a minty kind of mid blue green, and it is just about to start opening all of its buds. They're a pale green to a lovely pink color. Now this does like well draining soil, and it also prefers slightly acidic soil, and I have heavy clay soil, so I have, I fertilize these individually, and I've also been working on amending the soil for where these are planted, because I guess I actually want them to work. I've also tucked in a couple of heucheras, but we're talking about winter flowering things, so we're going to skip past that. One of the things that was flowering just recently, and it might flower yet, I mean flowering as in a week ago, is this penstemon. I've showed it in the previous video, so about 2 weeks ago it was still in flower. So I might still get some more. And the last thing is Gara. So again, if you think about our climate, Gara is something that I know does well in hot climates, and our climate can get warm. But the Gara, for me, has been doing really well. And there's two experiments I have going on here. So let me move out of the sun so that you can see what I mean. So I've got two different varieties of Gara, and that's kind of irrelevant. But I have this variety here, and then, one slightly back. I think one's called Rose Madder, and I'm not sure what the other one is. Wild Rose or something, possibly. But what's interesting is this Gara back here. Let me see if I can get closer and bend over. Ooh, my ribs. Okay, you can see that this Gara here had some more spent blooms on it. And there's three. There's one here, one there, and one here. Now, this bed's changed quite a lot, so I am planning on digging these up and pushing them further back into the bed, because I do like the flowers. It flowers for a really long time. So basically, end of summer to now. But what's really interesting to know is that this variety I did not prune back. I didn't cut it back after its first flush of flowers. It's finished flowering much sooner. This variety here, I'm really sorry for the video quality, everyone. I'm normally a little bit better. Okay. So this variety here, I actually cut back because this was in a pathway. And again, this bed has changed a bit too. So in an ideal world, I would probably take these and put these a little bit further back in the bed. But this scara, you can see all of the new growth. So from here up, so this is where I pruned it. And I think I pruned it in, I want to say I pruned it sometime in autumn, and it's responded really well, and it is still throwing out these really lovely mauve to hot pink to pale kind of flowers. Not a fragrance as such, relatively evergreen, and that we're in December and it still has some green growth on it. I might actually even prefer this variety. It's fairly easy to propagate, but this is something that I know is beneficial for kind of moths and insects that are around. So I don't really get to enjoy it apart from the lovely coloring and the fact that it is in flower. But it just goes to show that having a bit of a prune and cutting stuff back can be quite, rejuvenative. Is that a word? Rejuvenational? No, that's not a word. Rejuvenative? Revitalizing. So that's one of the things that's still flowering in the garden for me. So just to kind of give you a run through, I have the David Austin Poet's Wife, which is a repeat flower that is blooming for me in December. I have Gara. I've got 3 different varieties. The one that I've cut back in kind of early autumn, when its first flush of flowers was dying. Maybe it was late autumn, if I'm being honest. That one is still flowering in December. If the slugs weren't plaguing my life, you would see a lot more of that really lovely yellow primrose flowering everywhere with a really nice fragrance. So that's another thing I've got flowering. We've got the Perfume Princess Daphne in flower. And we also have the Irissimum Irresistible Magenta that is also in flower. Now there's a couple of things that are coming a little bit further along. So we just finished flowering for the strawberry tree. So that one's just carried over. And what was really interesting, and I'm not sure why, but I also have a midwinter fire dogwood. And I was surprised to see, and you can see it just here. This was in flower 2 weeks ago, so it's lost all of its leaves. It's got that kind of, well, midwinter fire color, I guess. I'm keeping mine a bit small, but I really love this kind of red color kind of mixed through some of the beds. So some of the dogwoods sometimes will throw some blooms. I also have my winter flowering cyclamen. These are still growing strong. I put these in, when did I put these in? I must have put these in September, I want to say. And they were in flower in September, and they are still going strong. We have a little bit of slug damage, so they are supposed to be slug resistant, and for the most part they have been, but there has been a little bit of slug damage. Okay, so this one is still going strong. All varieties that I picked, you might not realize this, but with the cyclamen, there are some varieties that are highly fragrant and there are some that aren't. And a lot of times they're sold as kind of mixed species. You don't know specifically which one is which. But what I encourage you to do is wait till when they're flowering in the garden center, buy them then, and then you get a good high fragrance. There's a butterfly. Oh, he's gone. Well, must not have liked any of my food sources. Kind of looked like a red admiral, but I'm not. Wow, it's really nice to see a butterfly in December. Weird. So, cyclamen is also a great flowering choice, and it does a really good job of perking up the kind of woodland garden. I also have some parahebe, which is this shrub here, and parahebe looks like it's about to flower for me. This one is called parahebe avalanche, and you can see it's just got these buds, and I've not actually cut this one back. So it's got this pinnate, serrated leaves. It's evergreen. It stays relatively this size. And you can see, if I just pivot there, we have some flowers blooming. Now they are a kind of a white flower with a ring. Oh, there's a plane. So they are a white flower with a pale pink red ring to them. Just to give you an idea of how easy it is to propagate erythemum, these are 2 cuttings that I took from the other variety that I have, and I can't remember the name. This is the variegated variety. All I did was cut it off and stick it straight in the ground. I didn't do anything with it, and I've got all of this new kind of leaf texture everywhere. So either I've got some amazing Mother Gaia earth skills, or actually it's just quite an easy thing for most people to propagate. And so if you buy one, that means that you basically have bought a free plant, because you can keep reusing them over and over and over again. One of the other things that I'm not really counting as winter flowering is this osteoperimum. So this variety is called 3D coconut. I'll show you what it looks like in full bloom. But we're in December. It's not died back. It's still going fairly strong. I don't know much about this one. I hope that it stays year round. I really enjoyed the white. The white was very refreshing. And it has this really kind of nice 3D texture. And I still have some buds here. They're a lot smaller than, and even this one is, they're a lot smaller than when they were in the summer. In the summer, they're probably the size of large buttons, but it's still giving a few flowers. I did have 3. I lost one of these to Keith. I think he was marking his territory, and I lost one. It burned, but I've got that one and this one here, and it's just this really nice kind of doming, lovely shape. And again, I might rework these beds, but not anytime soon now that I've hurt myself. One of the other things that Keith wees on, and he thinks I don't know, is this. This one is Miner's Merlot, but I mean, I know this is winter flowering, but look at that color. Isn't it beautiful? Oh, stunning. Oh, sidetrack. Okay, so I'm gonna have to pause. This is where this stops becoming a winter flowering, and I'm talking about shrubs. But I absolutely love using eucalyptus as a shrub rather than a tree. Obviously, I can't afford to have something that's 50,000 million feet tall, as much as I love the peely bark. And one of the things that I do is I prune on this probably about 3 or 4 times a year to keep it relatively small. And I was slightly concerned that it was always going to be bare at the bottom, and I didn't catch it in time to keep it small. Fear not, because what I've just noticed is, because I've been pruning it, I'm finally getting these little shoots there and all over the bottom. So that means that it will be more kind of bushy and round, which I'm very excited to see. Okay, so sorry, back to winter flowering things. So, I mean, look how nice that looks. I think long term I want to add more things like this to the bed. I've never really been a massive fan of hot pink, but what I can say, when everything's dying back, it is shocking. Really, really, really cool to have this in the garden. And what's also interesting, and I think makes it look even more vivid, is that most of the leaf foliage is kind of a bluey green color. So that is also interesting. Now, there is something else that's in flower, and I've just noticed it. I have a Pieris japonica in the back. This one's called Forest Flame. They do well in kind of full shade situations. This one has emerging new growth and hot red, which I really like. I also, this will get much bigger, but I've planted it in the back, so again, I've got some of that kind of evergreen interest. But you can see the heads of some flowers. It probably can't. I'm sorry, I can't get back there. No, I can't do that, but the This is another thing that is was flowering relatively soon. You can see some of the flowers on the end. So this one is Abelia kaleidoscope. This one's really kind of coming into its own and filling in. I want it to kind of carpet this bottom section because it gives year-round interest and it also flowers. It's got a lot of new growth in it, and it's really come to life in this kind of autumn period, so it's really kind of bedded in. So that is a fabulous plant that flowers in the kind of colder months. There are a few other things that I have that aren't flowering right now because they weren't doing so well, and I've relocated them. Some of them are sweet boxes, so Sarka Koa, I think. There's Winter Gem and Confucia, I think. I'm not 100% certain. I hope that these make it. Something's been absolutely eating them to bits. I'm slightly thinking it might be woodlice, but it could be something else entirely. But these sweet boxes, if they're bigger and healthier, they should be flowering. So this should be a nice kind of evergreen flower. I'll show a picture on the screen. Another sense, not in my eyes, you can see. And it's really starting to really kind of come back from that prune. So it's really getting nice and full of color. So that'll be really nice to see. You can also see the winter flowering honeysuckle bushes. And the Daphne, which smells really good. I need to pick up my leaf litter. The last thing that I want to show you, well, there's two things I want to show you. And I'm really sorry if I don't have the vigor I normally have when I'm doing these, but I am rather sore. Okay, so this last thing, I think I called it out on one of the videos. This one is Chiara japonica. It's a really fabulous plant. It's really only supposed to be flowering in spring. And I don't know if it's that our winter feels quite mild. So this is semi-evergreen. It can, in some instances, hold on to its leaves. This one was a really fun find for me because I just love having this yellow color in the garden. And it's absolutely covered in blooms. This should not be flowering right now. I was tempted to think that it was a sign of stress, but given how voracious these flowers are, I'm kind of thinking that it is just really enjoying the weather. So this one is actually a quite a large shrub. Let me move back so you can see. And I'm trying to train it along this back fence and really kind of fill up all of this negative space. It's got this really nice kind of, I would say chartreuse, almost not chartreuse, but a little more green than chartreuse, but it's got this really nice kind of pinnate, serrated leaves with a bit of a tooth to it. But I mean, look how cheerful that yellow is. So, really, really nice if you want something kind of like a vine, but more shrub-like, and it can be trained like a vine. That's what I'm choosing to do. Sorry, plants. I can't bend over. Hi, Keith. Where are you going? Where are you going? Huh? You showing everyone your bow tie? You showing everyone your bow tie? Oh, Keith, I can't bend over to pet you. Hi. Look, you got oranges. You got oranges. It's not Christmas, is it? Look at that. So, the absolute last thing that I want to show you all, if you've not been completely bored, I have other things that are due to flower very soon, but the last thing that I want to show you, and this is rather about to flower very quickly. This one is Edgeworthia chrysantha, or paper bush. I think Buddhist monks used to use it, or maybe they still do, to create paper. This works really well in a woodland garden. Highly fragrant. So this is the Edgeworthia Chrysantha. So this is the slightly yellow variety, and the bigger variety. There's a few that you can get. There is one called Red Dragon, and I've only seen it one place before, and I'm kicking myself that I didn't get it. But it loses its leaves in the winter, so it's just dropped all of its leaves now. And this is, oh, you can see it here. There's the last leaf standing right there. So this one is really about to come out with some strong fragrance. I think I need to look into this one, because I am growing this one in a tree shape, so I want it to kind of fill in. I don't want it to be massive, but maybe after it flowers, I want to come in and do some additional pruning just to kind of encourage more branches, because what's interesting about this one, or at least mine, is that there's only a cluster of blooms at the termination of each branch. That's just something that's really interesting to note. So I'm curious that if I do more pruning on it, if it will kind of produce more flowers. So if you know anything about Edgeworthia Chrysantha and you prune yours, I would love to have some insight. And then the last thing, and I'm sure I've got things that are flowering. I keep saying and the last thing, I'm really sorry. The last thing I have that's still flowering right now are these edible alpine strawberries. Some people don't like these because they are, they have runners, and they can kind of go on about their thuggish lifestyle. But I've planted a whole, basically tiny hedge in front of my bamboo. Where are you going? So they produce these really lovely edible strawberries. They're super tiny, jam-packed full of flavor. So I've actually turned this into my strawberry bed, interim strawberry bed. I also have some acacia that's about to bloom, and there's a few other things that are coming, so I'm not going to go hell for leather on showing you everything that's in the garden. But these are a few of the things that are really kind of working for me, and I'm really enjoying them. Oops. It's a constant discovery as well as what you plant. Sometimes you forget what you plant, and you get little surprises like this little hebe that's flowering. All right, everyone, that's me done. I'm officially done. Hi, everyone. So that was everything that I wanted to take you through today. So hopefully, no matter the injury, you find a way of getting out into the garden. I'm definitely going to be staying inside most of today, but I really wanted to get outside. I've been away from home for a few days, and I really wanted to kind of get outside, and it's a really lovely kind of partly sunny day today, and there were so many things that I noticed that were flowering, and it was really nice to see them. So regardless of how I feel, it has absolutely lifted my spirits. And little bow tie businessman Keith has really enjoyed it too. He's a bit upset with me because he's smelling his nepeta, and I cut it all back, so my bad. Anyways, hope you get a chance to get out into your garden, no matter the season. Hopefully you've got a bit of interest, and take care. See you next time.